right, we are live. What's up, everybody? Good to see you again here on the RecTech Live channel, and first show of the year of 2022. So looking forward to this one today. Talking about the job apply process. I got my friend here, Karl Wierzbicki, the VP of Marketing for Inflight Corporation, and we'll discuss his company's recent findings around the state of the job apply flow, a critical component of the at the heart of the candidate experience. So, Karl, good to see you again, and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. Glad to be here.
Excellent. He's in Kitchener, Ontario, up in Canada there, so he's a Canuck dialing in, and so we welcome him to the show. Let's do some shout outs. So we've got some people here on the live list. We got feel free to put your company and location there in the chat and say hello. Kevin Cruz, Gareth Sharmy, April, Robin, Kirsty Gomes, John Bonin, Jay Hermosa, Carrie Stravopoulos, hope I said that right, Shale Cray, Wes Welker, Stephen Daspit. All right, how's it going, guys? Good to see you all there. As a reminder, the show will be replay right after it ends, and we'll also push it to our YouTube channel as well afterwards. So stay tuned for that. Hey, Kirsty, how you doing? Let's see here. If you have any questions along the way, just put them in the chat there or in the question box, and we'll be sure to ask them, relay them to Karl myself, and we can do them at the end or during the show as well. There is a link to download the report as well. Karl, do you see that there at the bottom of the screen somewhere?
Nope. But I'll take your word for it.
All right, you should be there. If you don't guys see that, let me know. It's in the it says download the State of Apply PDF, so it should be there. Jair says, "Hey guys, Jair and Stephen from Minefield. Hey guys, how you doing? All right, up to 16 live now. All right, William Rang is here. Excellent. Hey. All right, so Karl, before we get started, tell everyone what Inflight does. Give them a quick synopsis there.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. So Inflight is a user experience company. First and foremost, we have a software platform that allows enterprises to get more value from their existing software systems and applications. What we do is for organizations that have these big entrenched enterprise applications that run their business for human capital management or financials, we basically let them peel off the old, ugly, complicated UI and put on a brand new, beautiful, mobile optimized, modern UI on top of it. Right? That fixes the biggest issue with a lot of these systems, which is the user-facing portion, right? That just hasn't kept pace with changing expectations for ease of use.
Very cool. And how did you, for the discussion today, the apply process, the job apply flow, you guys come out with that report. Where'd that idea come from? Just give me some the origin story.
Yeah, great question. So, I mean, one of the things that's a hot topic right now is the candidate experience. And, it's becoming pretty well understood the importance of things like employer brand, recruitment, marketing, job advertising, candidate communications, and all that stuff. But one thing that we find a lot of people overlook is the quality of the job application experience that's provided by their applicant tracking system. So what we wanted to do was come up with a piece of research that provided some insights for everybody that show what candidates experience when they go through the job apply flow on the applicant tracking systems. So this study objectively measures what candidates experience when they're applying for jobs at companies like yours.
Cool. Well, go ahead and share your screen and we'll get rolling with your slides.
Yeah, for sure.
So the apply process, folks, is something I've been preaching about for many years. If you followed me and my stuff, in fact, it was 2019. I think I gave a talk on this called "State of the Mobile Apply" up in at the New York Recruiter Meetup back in 2019. I think it was. So, and that's why when I saw this report from Inflight, I said, "Let's talk about this again," because I think there's some good data in here that these guys put together, and we'll talk about that. Here we go. So, all right, Karl, take it away. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, well, we covered kind of the intro here and why I think it's worthwhile to spend some time today talking about the apply flow. It really is kind of misunderstood and misjudged. So hopefully in the course of today's conversation, we can kind of answer some questions, pose some questions, take questions from the audience, and maybe provide some visibility into things that we could all do to make the candidate experience better. Chris already gave me a great introduction, VP of Marketing at Inflight. Inflight, like I say, just has a software platform that lets you put a brand new UX layer on top of your existing systems, right? And the applicant tracking system is obviously one of those outward-facing systems that's really gotten out of sync and out of touch with candidate expectations for quality of experience. We use self-service applications all the time. Think about finding a movie to watch or a car to take you somewhere. Think about, ordering groceries online and stuff like that. It's all intuitive. It's all frictionless. And it's really the business acknowledging the value of our time and acknowledging that if they don't get the experience right, we're going to take our business somewhere else and give it to somebody who does. And that's really what's happening in the talent market right now. And that's really why this is, I think, such an important topic for us to be talking about today. It's really more difficult than ever to get to recruit and hire for in-demand roles such as frontline staff, nurses, doctors, truck drivers, software developers, you name it. The people you want to hire know that they're in the driver's seat these days, and that there are many employers who'd be happy to hire them. And what's happening is if your job application flow is frustrating or creates friction for candidates, they're just going to move on to another employer that has the same job listed and who can deliver a better experience. So that's really the nut of what we're going to be talking about today. As I said, we hear a great deal about the candidate experience and how important it is. And organizations today have been progressing in leaps and bounds in terms of understanding the impact on hiring of things like employer branding, job advertising, candidate communications, the interview process, the offer process, onboarding. And it's accepted now that if you fall short in any of these areas, it's going to cause unpleasantness for candidates. And if it gets to be too much, the unpleasantness is going to cause candidates to walk away from the employment opportunity that your company's offering. But as I said, there's like one blind spot that nobody seems to be talking about, and that is the job application experience, right? A lot of organizations seem to overlook the fact that candidates need to submit an application, and that the vast majority of those applications are handled by applicant tracking systems. And, if you check Twitter, you check your social media, everybody seems to love to hate applicant tracking systems. It's just one of those things that frustrates everybody who's out there looking for work. People talk about how difficult the process is all the time. And it's really become a huge bottleneck in the flow of candidates into your organization. When candidates drop out of your apply flow, your candidate conversion rate really suffers. The conversion rate gets really low. And when your conversion rate's low, some of your key metrics are going to go down. Your roles are going to take longer to fill. Your costs are going to go up. And even the quality of your hires can be impacted. Sure. Go ahead, Chris.
The conversion rate is such a key metric that I think a lot of recruiters don't think about when it comes to the ATS, right?
Yeah.
I think, depending on who you ask, I think the stat is around, 10 to 15% maybe of everybody who clicks on one of your jobs will actually apply. So keep that in mind.
That's actually pretty accurate. And I think you hit on the exact reason why so few people know what their actual candidate conversion rate is because it's actually really difficult to measure. A lot of cases, the candidate journey begins before that candidate ever lands on one of your digital properties. Could start on Google, could start on a job board, but you only really start to get visibility once they've actually bypassed all of those hurdles and gotten into the ATS pages, which is into the journey already.
Yep.
So there's a great stat that came out a year or two ago, published by Appcast from one of their research reports, and it shows the actual candidate drop off rate. So this is the number of people who leave the application process before they complete the application. So people who demonstrated intent to apply, they clicked the apply button, but who left. So this is an astonishing number for me.
Staggering. Yeah.
Yeah, it's astonishing, I think, for a lot of people who see it, that realization that 9 out of every 10 people that you've invested your time and resources in attracting and who you've pumped up to apply for a job at your company are leaving before they actually complete that transaction, before they complete the goal that they expressed intent to, clicking apply. It's stunningly inefficient, right? So this is the exact question that we wanted to answer, right? Like, why is that happening? How can we shine some light on this so that we can all make notes and make changes and move on and improve our conversion rate so that we could take some of the heat off recruiters and talent acquisition teams? So we talked a little bit about the state of the apply flow research. And the goals are simple, right? I wanted something that would objectively measure what candidates experience and to take things out of the realm of like judgment or subjectivity or anything like that, but to actually just look at concrete things that are kind of like black and white and yes and no. So what we ended up doing was paying people to apply for jobs at the Fortune 500 and record what they saw. They had instructions to follow on how to apply, and they basically kept a tab running. How many steps, how many clicks, how much time they spent, how long it took them through the different phases of the application, some other details. And they recorded those, and we got them and tabulated them. We took the resulting data and we shared it with a voice of the candidate consultant. And she was able to help us interpret the data and come up with some of the insights that we're going to look at today.
Cool.
Yeah. So, sorry, I'm going to take a drink of water here because I get a little dry in the winter.
Mm-hmm. I got my humidifier going over there.
Yeah, right. It's minus 22 here this morning, so it's zero humidity in the air today. So for the rest of the time, we'll talk about some of the insights. As Chris said, we've got some time for questions along the way, so feel free to send those along to Chris, and he'll pose them as we go. So our first finding was probably no surprise. Candidates are being asked to jump through a lot of hoops over the course of their job application. We took a look, and on average took about 5 minutes to complete a job application, which is actually really good. That number is lower than what we were expecting. But
yeah, it's surprising.
It seems surprising, but this is what the data came up with. But what's also surprising too is when we take a look at the data and we start to look at the number of steps and clicks that candidates are going through in this 5 minutes, it's actually pretty frenetic, the pace that we're asking them to move through the application process in. So what we're seeing is once they click apply the first time, they have to make 9 more clicks before they even get into the application process or the apply flow. So they're having to click the apply now button repeatedly. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But along the way, we're asking them to create user accounts on each of the different systems that they touch along the way. So that could be the CRM or talent network or the ATS, or some professions or some verticals require other systems integrated for background checks or evaluations and things like that. And for each of these account creation steps, these candidates are having to enter the same information over and over again and do the same task over and over again.
So those 42 clicks, that could be like, choose a drop down here, check off a box here, all on one page.
Yep. Type in your name, type in your work experience. It could be anything. We just distilled it down to its simplest representation, which is like, we'll call it a click. Anytime that the candidate has to exchange information with the system or perform an action to progress, we'll count that as a click.
Gotcha.
right? And that's one of those objective measures that we talked about to try to signal, how much burden we're placing on candidates to move through this process. So once those candidates get past all of those account creation steps and login steps, once they get past any duplicate job descriptions, there are 42 more clicks that they need to go through in order to complete the application. And many times, as I said, they're being asked to answer the same question over and over again, or having to enter information manually that already exists in another format or in another location. Think about their resume, think about their LinkedIn or their Indeed profiles. We noticed in the data that candidates were having to enter that again and again, even though that they already uploaded it. The other thing is, when you're making candidates go through all of these steps and enter this much information, it doesn't really create a good experience. The data shows that candidates are hurrying to get through this experience, and in their rush, we're conditioning them to skim or ignore or not fully consider the questions or the information that we're presenting them with. And it's evident in their hurry to get through it that they're not enjoying the process. So an experience like this is not really getting your relationship with the candidate started on the right foot. It's actually, even amongst those who are successful in completing the job application, not really creating a positive impression of your company.
Yep.
So one of the things that I always encourage folks to do is secret shop yourself. Check out your own apply flow. Apply for one of your own jobs or a couple of your own jobs, and walk a mile in the candidate's shoes, or at least walk 51 clicks in the candidate's shoes, and see how long it takes you. See how many clicks you have to make, and then when you're done, ask yourself, how do I feel at the end of that? Was it good or was it not good?
Yeah. I can guarantee you, if you go through your process right now, if you're a recruiter out there, you'll find 2, 3, 4, 5 things you can take off of there you don't need right now. And that takes no money. It just takes a little bit of effort and time on your part to make that happen inside the ATS. So,
yeah, for sure. That's a great point. There are a lot of things that you could do just by working with your own internal process and the ATS and harmonizing what questions are getting asked in your application and the ones that are actually being used by recruiters, right? If it's something that they don't use immediately to assess a candidate, or it's something that they could get later or from a second pass or from a different source, get it out of there. I mean, focus on the goal of getting people to apply, which is receiving the application. As well, I think another way that organizations can simplify the apply flow is to take a look at those sign-up forms and user registration steps. Those are always the single largest point of candidate drop-off. So if you can do something to either relocate where those signups occur or consolidate them so that a single form creates accounts on all of those systems, you're doing a huge service to the candidate experience and to your conversion rate. Another interesting finding in this research was related to the number of times and places that candidates are being made to click apply. When we start to break that down and we look at the pre-apply clicks, so those are the clicks that exist between the first apply now click and the actual start of the process, it really shows us that we're putting candidates down this long and winding road. 95% of candidates have to click apply multiple times. I mean, what is the stat here? 65% are being made to click apply now 3 or more times. It's funny because it indicates just how many steps and multiple duplicate job descriptions are kind of being prepended to this thing that candidates have already said they want to get started on. And I think the reason that this kind of pre-application journey exists is because so many job searches now start on Google. A few years ago, the number was more than 73%. I'm sure that's only gone up. And the one thing we know about Google is if your job exists anywhere on the internet, Google's going to find it. And like that job will appear on your properties, so the digital sites that you control, your career site or your ATS pages, and that's great. But when your jobs exist on LinkedIn, Indeed, other job aggregators, other job boards, other sites that you don't even know about that are just scraping listings from other sites, it presents a bit of a problem, because those sites that you don't control could actually outrank in the search results the sites that you do control. So when Google presents results for your jobs, the first 3 or 4 options could be other sites, and candidates are clicking there to apply. And it creates a problem because you have no say over the experience that they get there, and you have limited visibility into the journey at that state because you don't own the site that they're traveling through.
Yeah, it's always been a problem out there. It's something I hear a lot of enterprises complain about. Not a whole lot you can do other than asking that site to take it down, but many times even that doesn't work. But
yeah, it's getting alarming that sites are we live in a bit of an age of the grift. Since the pandemic started, so many people are looking for jobs. It's a bit of the Wild West out there. We've noticed spam sites actually popping up that purport to collect candidate information to apply for the job, but they don't. They're not collecting that information to submit to you as a candidate for employment, but they're collecting that information for their own purposes and just leaving the candidate hanging after they collect that information. They're not sending the candidate even after they get what they want to your site.
Spammers are everywhere, and they're looking for that data wherever they can find it. So fake job listings and fake job boards are part of that. Google for Jobs is on your list there, and they've also they're starting to prioritize direct apply listings. So if your ATS has a force it to log in before you can apply, that's it. Google's not going to like that. And so I like the Greenhouse ATS, Karl, where they actually put the apply form at the bottom of the job description, and it's only like 7 or 8 fields you got to fill in. That's it. All the you can upload a resume right there, name, phone, email, and that's really all you need as a company to get the apply is the basic information. Start there, and think of it as lead generation. As long as you get their contact info, you can go back to them anytime you want and say, okay, now finish the application or send me a resume at that point, things like that. So,
yeah, for sure. And I mean, the basic premise is this. I mean, get people into the apply flow as early as you can, and don't put things in between the candidate and the apply flow, because every step in between is an opportunity for them to get distracted and to go astray. The other thing to do is just try to improve your ranking on Google for Jobs. There are a number of tactics that companies can do, submitting XML sitemaps, increasing their domain authority. There's a strategy that you can employ to make sure that your jobs rank highly. And if after doing those, you still can't get your jobs to rank highly, there are some other options to kind of hack the search results so that your jobs are on top. And that's advertising, AdWords, and things that when people type them into Google, make sure that they route candidates directly to your jobs.
Yep. Another quick hack around that, I can tell the audience, is to, take a job listing. Let's say there's a job in your ATS that is showing up on Google for Jobs, and there's a bunch of other job boards who are scraping that job appear first. But one trick around that may work is change the job title, like create a second job listing that's similar to it, tweak the job title a bit, and you should see that appear in the results after 24 hours. So something to try out there on your own if you want to experiment with trying to game the system a bit there.
Yeah, we've got a number of customers that we've basically done SEO for their jobs for, just in order to get the rankings to come up better. Skip a slide. Yeah, here we go. Great. So next insight here was regarding employer brand. It's a hot topic right now. A lot of people understand just how powerful the employer brand is at building preference for you as an employer. So we actually found this next insight a little bit surprising. When we took a look at the Fortune 500 apply flows, we found that almost 50% of companies had vendor branding present on their apply flow. Right. So whether that's the vendor name in the URL or having a vendor logo on the apply pages, or even a vendor word mark referenced in the footers of the page, it's surprising because it creates a jarring experience, right? It creates the impression that candidates are leaving your site and going to another site. Mm-hmm. Because the quality of the branding, the look and feel changes. It appears less polished once they start filling out that application. The pages have a different URL. People may not be familiar with that other logo that's appearing. And it really erodes the candidate's confidence in the application process. And when they get that uncertainty or they get a little confused, it contributes to candidate drop off and really hurts your conversion rate. This is kind of a simple one to address in a lot of cases. Could be as simple as working with the team that administers or manages your applicant tracking system to see if you could get them to update it and mirror the look and feel and the navigation of your career site. If it's the vendor injecting their branding into your pages, check to see if you could get it off there.
You should be, if you're paying them, you have every right to get that branding off of there.
Yeah, I think a lot of vendors respect that, but then there are some vendors who take the approach that it's their infrastructure and their IP, and they want to do a little bit of advertising, and it's baked in and non-negotiable, right? Mm-hmm. So in those cases, you need to look at a third-party solution that's capable of allowing you to have full control over your branding and to actually really do a market improvement over the look and feel and the usability of the apply flow pages. Right. The goal is really to make your apply flow experience feel as unique and as authentic as your brand is, and to give candidates the impression that they're interacting with your company and not a third party. Right. That brand is your intellectual property and an asset to you that actually helps you win over candidates. Another tip too is just using your own brand voice and tone in the wording of your questions and your instructions to candidates, just to again create that consistency and experience from your career site and your apply flow experience, so it's seamless. Right. Candidates shouldn't feel like they've left your site and gone to another site that's not as good. That's 100% what you want to avoid in the apply process. And that brings us to the last finding that we're going to talk about today. And this is perhaps the most puzzling finding when we first saw the data come back. We looked at the relationship between employer branding in the apply flow and the number of clicks in the apply flow. And what we expected to see was that the brand savvy organizations were going to have a better experience and record fewer clicks in the application process. But what we found was actually the opposite of that. We actually found that organizations that flowed their branding through the application had more clicks. And it really indicates that there's some kind of disconnect going on between the employer brand team, who should be responsible for designing the experience, and the people who actually buy and configure the technology. It's apparent that the employer branding team isn't getting as much say in the apply flow experience as they should. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just a misunderstanding. The teams that are responsible for the candidate experience might have the impression that the ATS user experience is out of their reach. They can't control it. It's unchangeable. Has to be accepted as delivered, and that couldn't be further from the truth. There are third-party solutions out there that TA teams can buy and implement that give them complete control over the apply flow experience and the branding. So one of the best things that you could do is start building those internal relationships with the teams that are configuring or administering the applicant tracking system and talking to them about some of the topics and some of the findings in this research. And what you need to be doing is championing the voice of the candidate to these teams to let them know the kinds of hurdles or roadblocks that they experience because of the way this technology is set up, right? And you can start to bring in the impact that the quality of experience has on the efficiency of the money that you're spending to attract candidates, as well as the impact that the quality of experience has on your business metrics that you're trying to move, right? The number of hires that you're able to bring in and the cost for bringing those people in, right? Once you start those conversations and build the trust and the understanding in those other teams that actually the way this thing is set up actually has like a material impact on what we're trying to do here, our talent initiatives, you'll find them willing collaborators, right? They want to help support their colleagues and their teammates. So I can't encourage you to start having those conversations enough.
Karl, what do you think is the optimal number of clicks for an apply process? Do you have a sense for that?
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think there's no single number that's the right number. It's not one click and it's not 51 clicks. The right number is the number that allows you to line up the application to the questions that actually need to be answered in order for your organization to actually make that first pass. It's about the quality of the experience too, and the feeling that the experience creates in the candidate. So I want to resist pinning it down to a single number and encourage people to explore what's right for them. And if you've got your analytics in place and you're measuring right, you will be able to track your candidate conversion through each step of the apply flow. And you'll see when things are out of whack or out of line, because you'll see that drop-off number increase. And this is something that we work with our customers with all the time, is actually taking that assessment and looking for the trouble spots and fixing those. Right? I think looking for the sources of friction where they occur is a better approach than just trying to get a gross number count to come down, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I talked to one company last year that created basically a splash page where you could apply simply with your name, email, and your LinkedIn URL. That was it. And they used it as lead gen. The recruiter, as soon as they came in, would hop on LinkedIn, check out their profile, and contact that candidate. I thought that was a pretty unique way of approaching applies. You could also apply, the regular way on the ATS, but they put that out there to help just generate more leads coming in the door, which I thought was pretty novel of them.
Yeah, one of the things to be conscious of as you're doing that is, you want to have all of the candidate information into your ATS for regulatory and compliance reasons. So you want to just make sure that as you're doing stuff outside of the ATS, that you're actually treating that information with the appropriate confidentiality and security, but also to make sure that it eventually gets pulled into your ATS so that that information exists and can be pulled into the HCM at the appropriate time. So it's definitely a good way to shortcut some of this, but ultimately, at some point that information is going to have to go into your systems of record. So one of the things that we do is we work with our customers to make sure that we are collecting all of that information in a way that respects candidate privacy and security, and funnels it into the actual systems where it needs to reside for dispositioning and processing and workflow and automation, right?
Very cool.
Nice. Okay, great. So just to tie things up a little bit here, let's check on time. So when we, where to start? So today, when it's so hard to compete for the talent that you need, and pressures mounting on recruiters and people are starting to feel burned out because they're having such a hard time. We should really keep an open mind about exploring all of the tools that are at your disposal to improve the number of qualified candidates that you could provide to recruiters. And I'm confident that a lot of the people who are on the webcast today are looking at improving the candidate experience in a lot of other areas. But the one question that I want everybody to kind of go away asking today is like, how is the candidate experience in the apply flow? Because any unnecessary friction in that flow is going to make it difficult for your recruiters to do their jobs, because it's going to restrict the number of candidates flowing into your organization. And when that candidate conversion rate's low, as I said, it's going to impact your key metrics. I want to part on a slide that shows what's possible when you approve the apply flow. This is an organization, a hospital, and during the pandemic, they were having a critical shortage of nurses, and they were having a tough time filling those roles. And they came to us, and they had specifically in mind the goal of removing friction from their application experience and improving their conversion rate. And by taking a look at some of the advice that I shared earlier, they were able to reduce the amount of time that nursing application took down from 25 minutes to about 2.5. They only asked the most important questions, kind of like what Chris was talking about earlier too. And they were able to improve their application completion rate to over 70%, which is really outstanding considering that benchmark rate is 8%. They're also getting 60% of their applications from mobile devices. So when you think about the audiences that you want to recruit, a lot of them are busy. A lot of them want to apply on mobile and can't, quite frankly, because many apply flows just aren't simply optimized for mobile. So now that number is 60% and growing. So they're able to tap into that huge portion of the talent pool that's looking for jobs on mobile devices. So the metrics themselves are great, but they're, metrics are metrics. What did you do for the business? And in this case, they were able to 4x the speed at which they recruited their most difficult roles. So they hired 8 cardiovascular OR nurses in 2 months, which is, like I say, 4 times faster than they did before the pandemic hit. So it works so well that their leadership, basically recognized them, in the company and acknowledged the impact that they made, right? Being able to get these nurses in.
Good stuff, Karl.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So parting shot here, just don't overlook the apply flow. I can't stress that enough. It's one of those things that I think we can't talk about enough and that we should talk about more. Just walk a mile in the candidate's shoes, go through your apply flow. We've got our methodology, instructions on how to do it in the report. I encourage everybody to go get the report. There are links everywhere, apparently. If you want this deck, reach out and talk to me. Chris shared a link earlier. Google, not just good for job search, but it's actually good for finding this report.
There you go.
That's it for content today, Chris. You could do questions and answers next, or
yeah, feel free to send Karl a question here. I'd be curious in the audience there. Throw up your career site link. We'll take a quick look if you want, and I'll deconstruct it for you on the fly here if you want. But sure. Any questions from the audience? Any other? Let's see here. Jeremosa's got one here. Jobs.mindfieldjobs.com. Oh, is this a job board, Jer? Okay. Join our talent network. Yes, it's a job board. All right, well, kind of doing career sites today, but I'll take a look at that one later.
Yeah, I'll have a look at it offline and click through some of the apply flow, and I'll reach out. I assume Chris has a way of getting in touch with you. not, drop me an email and I'll follow up offline.
Yep. Eduardo's asked, is there any ATS with state-of-the-art applicant experience? I mentioned Greenhouse before. Carl, do you have any top ATSs you'd like to mention?
We find ISIMS to be pretty good right now. It gets pretty good NPS scores. Yep, some of the smaller ones are more best in breed. A lot of the bigger ATSs that are specialized to enterprise tend to be the ones that lag. So the Workdays and the Taleos, those are typically the ones that
don't get me started about Taleo. So.
People need help with.
All right, well, thank you everybody for joining us today. First show of the year, and definitely want to thank Karl for going through that slide deck for us and talking about the apply process. It is so critical, and if you want more applies, you got to streamline it. That's the bottom line. So hope you enjoyed that. And
thanks for having me, Chris, and thanks to everybody who joined. Really appreciated having you on the line.
Definitely. All right, we'll see you next time on RegTech Live. Thanks for watching. We out.